very much for coming. It's great to see so many people here. And we are thinking that maybe we can start off, some plans and conversations today and maybe do it as an annual thing, meet in a year's time and say, right, what have we actually done and what have we achieved in the last year? And hopefully there'll be some progress. I'm just going to speak for 5 to 10 minutes about what we've been doing in Frome, and then then Mark's going to be talking about the tool that we've been developing. Paul Allen's going to be doing his presentation, and then one of the main focus of today is to also just have some time, 20 minutes on each table, looking at what we can do in the different areas and some action points that we can actually get going with, because we really need a step change in action. And just Peter's mentioned, but so I work for the Town Council as their resilience manager. I've been here for 4 years now. And when I first started, I thought, link up with the other, sustainability people at Town Council level, and I couldn't find any others in the country. So maybe Bracknell's got one. So it's great to be doing this work, but also a bit like, come on, everyone else, we've got to link up, and we've got to just, and also think beyond Frome. So, and I also work with Peter, as mentioned, and Liz as part of the FreeCode team. So why zero carbon? I know some of this is going to be covered later, but one of the things we're really keen to always talk about is sort of the health benefits and the local impacts to try and make it really sort of hit home. But as Peter mentioned, One Planet Living is part of our neighbourhood plan, and as I'm sure you know, if everyone lived like we do in the southwest or in England, we'd need 3 planets worth of resources to sustain us. That's not even thinking about climate change. So, we've just got to shift away and look at how we're consuming and producing, and it's, very, very inefficient at the moment. And then in terms of the climate change side of things, we're really keen, and in our plan that we'll talk about, one of the things we look at is sort of the impacts locally around flooding, for example. There are over 600 homes at risk of flooding currently, and obviously that's going to increase with extreme weather incidences increasing. In Somerset, there are around 600 people die every year because they can't afford to heat their homes properly, which is just crazy. And then obviously there are also impacts around air quality. In Frome, in some areas, they're almost in breach of European levels, and obviously that affects health and asthma and things like that. However, in terms of zero carbon, there are so many positives too. We spend £13 million on energy in Frome. If we relocalise that, we can maximise the impact for the local economy. We can increase jobs, training. We can generate money, create energy resilience, reduce fuel poverty. There's just so many positives. So we just really need to shift away. So we've been working with Mark at Climate Works and to develop a plan. First of all, we were looking at sort of why we should go zero carbon, and we launched that in 2016. And then we looked at sort of how we can do it. And luckily, the plan shows, we only need 5 wind turbines, for example, to meet our electricity demands. And, if we had the right planning framework and some support, we could do that. But there are other things we can do, obviously, and that's one of the things we'd like to talk about today. And this work has attracted, quite a lot of attention. So we've had Hamid Nasheed, who's the ousted president of the Maldives, who held his press conference underwater, I don't know if you remember, during the climate change talks. He lives in London and is very keen to support all of this work. Obviously, they've got a vested interest because their islands are flooding. And they committed to being zero carbon by 2020 and got lots of money from the World Bank to do it, but then he got ousted by a military coup. And then we also have Robert Llewellyn, who's also at Crichton from Red Dwarf, you might know him, and he came down a couple of years ago and was pregnant to do a film about how his village could go zero carbon. I don't know if anyone saw that documentary, but yeah, sort of looking at that. So, there's just loads of support and interest, and we've got a plan, we know how we can do it, we just need to now step up and do it. So I'm just going to give a quick overview of what we have been doing in terms of particularly around my work at the council. So we have a team of volunteers who do stuff around fuel poverty, and we do fuel poverty sessions throughout the winter in the medical practice. And we've also been training sort of frontline workers to do more advice, and we're going to be working with Liz on that over this year to reduce energy costs and carbon. We work with, at the moment there's an installation offer, which I think it's nationwide, but we work with Evolve, who can do free installation, cavity, top-up, loft and loft installation until the end of September, which is brilliant. And I was talking to the installation company last week, and they're saying, this is the best offer we've ever done. We've had 50 inquiries, and they're like, 50 inquiries, there's 12,000 households here, that's great that we're getting some response, but, in the scale of the, challenge we have, we need everybody to be insulating. Obviously, not everyone has a cavity, but we've done things like open homes in partnership with the Energy Co-op, and we had about 600 people visiting each other's homes, looking at ways to cut costs and carbon in their homes, and that's been a really effective way. We've got the thermal imaging camera at the council that people can borrow to pinpoint where their home is leaking heat. A couple of months ago in May, we did an improved Don't Move event here to encourage people to insulate and do eco retrofit and things, and to not rip out their kitchens when they move and things like that. We had funding from Europe to do thematic meetings in the different partner countries, so in partnership with our towns in France, Germany and Poland. And we had about 600 people come to that, just focusing on how we can switch to a renewable future, and with really interesting case studies from those towns as well. We've had Nikki Jones from Bristol coming over once a month to talk about energy and climate change, which has been really good and really interesting. And we are currently working with a few people across the county to really just encourage the pension fund to divest, because obviously we're trying to do stuff here and be a zero carbon town, and they're investing £121 million in Shell and BP and coal and oil. So it's like, this is not really consistent. And we've had a bit of, response, but we just need to hopefully we can work together on some of that stuff. And then we've won some awards for some of this work. But as I said, this is small in the scale of things, really. And then, as Peter mentioned, we're all part of the Energy Co-op, and in 2015 we launched our first community share issues. So I'm sure most of you know how community energy works, but the idea is that the community invests in the solar project or the renewable projects. We then have a roof lease with building owners, and then we either pay a yearly roof rent or discounted electricity to the building user. We did 150 kilowatts up at the medical practice in Frome, and we also did 50 kilowatts at Frome Football Club. And when we launched, we raised £300,000 in like 3 days. We were just overcut, and we had a long waiting list. We were able to offer our investors 6% return. There was a tax break of 30%, so people could get 30% of their investment back. It was just amazing. We're like, brilliant, we're going to do it. We're going to, and we had this is our initial goal. By 2020, £10 million invested, 8 megawatts of power, following in Bath and West's footsteps. However, I'm sad to say, after that initial share offer, I came back from holiday in September and found that the feed-in tariff had been slashed, and basically we haven't managed to do any other projects since. We've spent thousands on development, but we haven't managed to take it forward, because the minimum we can now do is 50 kilowatts, which is massive. I'll show you a picture in a minute. And also we have to, because of the way it works, we need people to sign up when we do find big roofs. We still need the business to sign up to 20 years, and if they repair their roof or take the panels down, they have to pay us a compensation clause, because we need to make sure that we have stable returns for our investors. So it's just a major barrier, and it's going to be really tricky to go zero carbon without finding a solution. But maybe there are ways. Maybe we can say to our investors, we've got a clause, 1 year out of 20 you might not receive your interest. That means you still get an overall 4% return, for example. And are there other areas that have done that? And can we just work out a way of doing it? Because it's such a win-win. It's free for the business, it's a good investment, it's ethical, it's local, and all of the profits go into a not-for-profit fund to fund activities around fuel poverty and carbon reduction. So it just really is a good setup. So at Frome Medical Practice we have 150 kilowatts of solar, and these are small projects, but even that saves 1,500 tonnes of carbon dioxide over 25 years and generates 220,000 for the community fund. So it's brilliant. And then this is the football club. So we did a thing where we used the community fund up front to actually build them a stand to co-fund it, and that again is going to save 500 tonnes, and also saving them money. And we have a film on our website which people can have a look at, which sort of talk about these projects. But that is the smallest array now that we can do. So we can't do little schools, roofs, we can't do community centres. It's just really limiting. But again, maybe there's an opportunity that we can do it, and maybe we can bulk buy, or maybe the council could take on a loan and then lend it out to businesses. So that's one of the things we'd really like to talk about today. So I'm trying not to speak too fast. I've got a lot to say about this stuff. The other area obviously is transport. That's a massive area. So in 2015 I got some funding from the Department for Transport to set up a car club here, and we have 2 hybrid vehicles, and on average one car like that displaces about 10 privately owned vehicles, they find, and people think a bit more because obviously they're paying per mile. Even though it's cheaper than having your own car, people sort of psychologically think, oh right, I'm paying for this per hour, so I'll drive less, which is good. We've been working with schools just before half term in May. We had 2,000 pupils from 8 different schools participating in the Active Travel Challenge, and car use reduced by about 20%. And there's a little film on our website about that as well, which is good. There's Sheila modelling our lovely electric bikes that are available for hire in Frome. And again, that's a great solution for somewhere as hilly as Frome. We also work with the bus user group to try and get better services for Frome, and actually we've had a little bit of success there, which has been unusual and good. And we've also worked with Mikey to do things like the village bus, where we club together and try and share some support for services that are being cut. And then we're always, trying to lobby and support better train connections as well. And then we got some free electric charge points. We've got 4 points now, I think, around the area, thanks to Cara and Zero Carbon World. So I would definitely recommend talking to her if you want some free charge points for your area. And in the future, that will be great. That will help to reduce our emissions, obviously. And our report shows that. And then we also have set up a volunteer driver scheme just to enable people to connect and share lifts. And it sometimes reduces carbon, but they do share lifts. But it's about connecting community and making people more, a stronger community and able to access the things they need. So, and we sometimes use the electric vehicle for that. So. And then we don't just want to... Sorry, Peter. That's Peter stealing food from our community fridge. We don't want to just talk about, obviously there's the direct energy use in terms of energy, heating and electricity and transport, but obviously there's a lot of energy involved in the things that we buy and throw away as well. So again, in 2015, I helped set up in partnership with a social enterprise called Adventure. We set up the UK's first share shop. So we've got over 1,000 things that people can borrow and about 1,000 members as well. Because the average drill, for example, is used for 13 minutes in its lifetime and then produces about 14 kilograms of CO2 in its production, but then it's just thrown away and causes disposal issues. So it just makes sense to share a lot of these things. So. Then the following year, in 2016, we helped set up the UK's first community fridge, which, as Peter's demonstrating, is available for anybody to use. And we have a network of volunteers that go to local businesses and take the food waste, particularly from supermarkets. And it's just a simple fridge in an old toilet block in the centre of town, very salubrious, with an electronic lock. But it just, and you often go there and you think, there's nothing in it, it's not really being used. But actually it shares over 6,000 items that would otherwise be thrown away, but it's used straight away, it goes almost immediately. And then we're working with, to try and get the Surfers Against Sewage plastic-free town accreditation, phasing out single-use plastic. So we've got like the glass milk bottles and things in town council. We've got some lovely bottles that you can buy downstairs to refill around the town. We've also been working with local cafes and other businesses to encourage them to phase out single-use plastic and to bulk buy alternatives and encourage people to give discounts for reusable coffee cups and things like that. And we've got a steering group and also showing things like the plastic-free ocean in schools and things. And then we have an amazing company in Frome called Protomax that can recycle any kind of plastic. And again, that reduces, obviously, the carbon dioxide and greenhouse gas emissions. So we've been working with them to, for example, recycle our VHS a few years ago, and we're looking at doing more with them. They produce recycled plastic hoardings, which have a much, much lower carbon footprint than the tropical hardwood ones that are often used. So again, is there a way that we could work with planners, for example, so they could stipulate, look, use these plastic, these low carbon alternatives? And then we work in partnership with the community to help them set up projects such as the Happy Nappy Library and the Toy Library. And I think that's it. So that just gives you a quick run through. And we've got on our website, Clean Future, there is a lot of stuff around what we've been doing around energy and also our clean and healthy plan. We weren't sure what to call it. At first it was fossil free, but this area is known for geology. I was like, I can't call it fossil free, And so clean and healthy, we thought, is at least a little more positive and sort of looking at the benefits to the community.